Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Niresh Eliyatambi. Very pleased to welcome to the studio Mr. Shanakiyan Rasamanickam, Member of Parliament for the Batticaloa district, and he is visiting us after some time, so I'm quite happy to have him here. Welcome and good evening, Shanakiyan.
Thank you, Niresh. Good evening to you.
Right, Shanakiyan, what is news in Batticaloa? And I ask this because, well, we in Colombo don't often visit there, but you, of course, shuttle up and down all the time. It's your district. What's news from Batticaloa?
Batticaloa, Niresh, just like everywhere else in Sri Lanka, the citizens are just watching the country move forward on almost like the country is on autopilot mode, where everything seems to be going as if there is no difference to what the situation was a month ago or a few months ago. I'm talking about issues that the public face don't seem to get resolved. It's been a year since the NPP government has come into power. Development seems to be at a standstill. There seems to be no development that is happening. But rest of people's lives haven't changed in the last year, you see. So the people of Batticaloa, of course, never voted for this government, not at the presidential election, not at the parliamentary election, not at the local government election, and they are most likely not going to vote for them at any future elections as well, because obviously we have kept them informed about the previous government and the present government, and they look forward to actually getting their issues resolved. But just like the people of Batticaloa, the people of this country, I think, are very worried. They're worried for two things. Number one is, now I, as a member of parliament, a lot of the people who support me within the country, outside the country, could be Tamil, Sinhala, Muslim. Most people, sometimes they get a little upset with me. They say, why are you, Shanakiyan, why are you attacking this government? Why are you criticizing this government? Do you want to bring the Rajapakshas back into power? Is that why you're attacking this government? So, see, this sort of thought process is there amongst a lot of the citizens. Most of the citizens of this country who voted for NPP voted for the NPP not because they were in favor of the NPP, but it's mostly because they were not in favor of the others. See, so they decided that the NPP was a new choice. It's almost like an experiment. So now the country and the citizens have experimented over who leads the country for the last two terms. In 2015, the citizens experimented with the good governance program, voted for Maithripala Sirisena, was largely disappointed. In 2019, they voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, even more disappointed. And in 2024, they voted for Yandrakumara Dissanayake, and they don't want to see, or they don't want to believe that their choice could be wrong. Now, the reason why I tell you this is because country being on autopilot mode is not good. Some may say, well, we are glad that people are being arrested. Of course, we welcome the arrests. We welcome this government's every single move to stop corruption. We support that, right? We welcome the government, fighting. No, rather, we welcome the government taking the underworld groups head on. We welcome the arrests that are being made. We welcome the drug peddlers being arrested. All this is great. But Niresh, going forward, I think what the country really needs is development in terms of the economy, the amount of money at the end of the day, how much money that the people have in their hand is an important thing. And that, to really achieve that, we really need to do certain things differently to ensure that. So again, the public say, okay, this government is only 1 year old. We need to give them some more time. But as a politician, as a member of parliament, we can very clearly see which path this government is heading in. We can see where they would be. We could already see where they could be in another year or two. Because these arrests also, sometimes, I was watching a live breaking news, maybe on your network. and the breaking news was initially that somebody was arrested. The most recent arrest was, I think, Manusha Nanayakara. When Manusha Nanayakara was arrested, everybody was saying, oh, finally, justice prevails, these crooks are being arrested. Now, Manusha Nanayakara, did he steal or not, I don't know. But Manusha Nanayakara's arrest and later him being produced doesn't make him guilty of that crime. He has to be tried in a
court
of
process
law,
has to be followed, yes.
And then this was the first breaking news. So most of the comments were, that. And then he was later released on bail. So when he was released on bail, again there was another breaking news. So I don't know, I can't remember if it was yours or if it was another news. So on that, again, if you see,
well, I should hope it was ours.
well, whichever that came up first on my phone while
then
I was
definitely ours.
Yes, definitely, could most likely. But anyway, so when it came up, a lot of people's comments were, oh, no jail time for him. So you see, public are not, some members of our society or some citizens are not even aware of a judicial process. That somebody is being released on bail means, that doesn't mean that they are not guilty.
Well, the lack of awareness is probably because the judicial process was subverted for so many years, for decades. So, how are people to know what the normal process actually is?
Well, I don't want to speak on the judiciary and how they operate, but what I'm saying is the citizens, they sometimes feel that on looking at those comments, it was almost like the citizens didn't have an understanding of the process. So why I tell you this, Niresh, is because it was a very similar pattern of things that happened, or the events that unfolded during 2015 to 17 were very similar. Every day you see somebody being arrested, somebody is being put in remand prison, then they are in custody for 2 months, 1 month, and then later they are released on bail. Now look at the example of Duminda Disanayaka, former minister. He was arrested for on the charges of being connect to I think a T56 gold plated T56 or something like that. Rupees $18 billion worth of money that belongs to Mahinda Rajapaksa, that's kept in Uganda. That we were told about various allegations against the Rajapakshas. Now, if the government doesn't seriously start investigating into these issues, and if they don't start filing indictments or pursuing really going after the ones who did these crimes, and if they just think that the public are happy with these arrests happening and somebody being remanded, in a year or two the public will also get a little sick of it, because if the cost of living doesn't go down, if the electricity prices don't go down, the fuel prices don't go down. Now, the fuel price, I remember some ministers, some members said Kanchana Wijayasekara, a former minister, was getting some ridiculous amount of money per litre, and that is why the fuel price was high. Now, this government has been in power for a year. Right? If the government is unable to bring the fuel prices down, then either they've lied before the election or they're lying now. If the electricity prices, they promised to bring them down, if they haven't brought them down in a year, either they lied then or they're lying now. So what I'm saying, Niresh, is that the country is on autopilot mode, just the way Ranil Wickremesinghe, handed over the country. The economy is just operating on autopilot.
So you feel that more decisive action is needed and the pace of change has to be increased.
Well, the efficiency, Niresh. See, I don't think most of the ministers are aware of what they're up to. Now, I'll give you one example. I'm very thankful to the President, His Excellency Andra Kumara Dissanayake, in fact, for removing the portfolio of ports and aviation from Bimal Ratnayake, because see, Bimal Ratnayake as a Minister of Transport, Civil Aviation and ports, what has he done in the last year? Now, I think very recently we saw that the Colombo Fort railway station was getting refurbished, right, a month ago. Now, just for the rain the last few days, the Fort railway station is flooded, right? So, these are, what I'm trying to say is, Niresh, these are all, things that are done to please the general public, as opposed to things that are actually being done to revive the country's economy or to give the country's economy the growth that it requires. For an example, renovating the Fort bus station is, we welcome that. It's a great initiative, but is it really going to increase the, it's, now when I say this, I'm not opposed to the Fort bus station being renovated, but the example that I'm going to give, to which Bimal Ratnayake has not really acted on, is the KK's harbour. The government of India, as far as I'm aware, gave a grant of 63 million USD. Now that 63 million USD was not taken. The KK's port has not been upgraded, or that project has not been done. So if the KK's port parallelly, whilst renovating Fort railway station, whilst renovating other bus stations, while doing that, if the KK's harbour had also been developed, that will add another layer of income to the government in foreign remittances as well. The commercial, if the KK's port becomes commercially, if it operates for commercial vessels, it will bring in a large number of foreign remittances through that. It will create more business opportunities. Now, I read an article that was on some aviation voice or some website like that. The article said that in the next 6 months, then the Bandaranaike International Airport has hit its full capacity, that no further planes can be accommodated because the airspace is, the air traffic is full, if to something to that effect. Now, in Jaffna, in Palali, we have an airport that can only accommodate a certain size of airplanes due to the size of the runway. Now, to expand the runway, it doesn't cost much, and the feasibility studies are done. The landowners who have to give their land away for the expansion of the airport are happy to give it away, and the estimates for compensation was done. And I'm pretty sure that we can arrange, if the government agrees, we can arrange for a foreign grant to be given to compensate those families who lose land. But in a year, what has he done? Nothing. On the ports, the KK's port and the Palali airport, nothing has been done. So, if the government ministers are this inefficient, Niresh, right? I don't know if it's inefficiency or if it's a lack of political will, or if it's in some way or the other not wanting to see the northern province getting developed. It's not just Jaffna. The KK's harbour is fully functional. That will transform the economy of the Vani district. If the Palali International Airport starts functioning, where there are larger aircrafts that can come, we may even be able to operate domestic flights from Batticaloa to Jaffna. That will connect the citizens of the eastern province also to the world. So, when we have real projects or real opportunity to bring in direct investments, to transform the economy, why is the government not looking at these projects? But they're trying to they're trying to tell the citizens that, oh, look, we are renovating the Fort railway station again. Great, we're not opposed to that. Please do it, but at the same time, do the things that really matter as well to bring this country, for this country to prosper.
So, do you feel that the northeast, the northern and eastern provinces are not getting enough attention?
Well, Niresh, north and the east, is not a it's not north and the east are not any different to any parts of the other country in terms of attention. There is no work happening in any district. Now, if I'm not mistaken, almost 36 billion rupees of funds that were allocated to the Road Development Authority have been returned. So, in this year, from February 2025 to November 2025, funds that were allocated for development, the government hasn't been able to utilize them. Why? Because they are inefficient. The divisional secretaries don't want to work. The district secretaries don't want to work. Why don't they want to work? Because they don't want to work because they know that they will be later politically victimized. Because this government has now started going after government officials only to get some cheap political mileage, or just to keep their their mandate was we are going to eradicate corruption. So that was the sort of mandate that they got, as opposed to other governments that were promising development or other sort of things. So just to keep the general public happy, they have started going after some officials who have just followed orders. In a previous government, they may have followed orders. So now the government staff are scared to work. So now, for an example, in some areas I've been told that for projects as small as 2 million rupees, the tenders have been called for. Some may argue saying, oh, that's good, isn't that good? There's transparency. But we are talking about an economy of, almost few thousand billion per year, right? Few thousand billion per year. You can't run a country where every 2 million rupee project where a tender is called for. So by the time the tender process is over and the work starts, 3 to 6 months have lapsed. So obviously for projects of larger value, tenders have to be called, there has to be transparency, but generally projects under 2 million, the civil organization, like, the CBOs, those are the, just like the
community-based organizations.
Community-based, like the cooperatives, those sort of, they are the ones, they're not private contractors. They are local community-based organizations who take the contract and then they complete the work. Then the money is paid to them. So there's not an individual, right? So now these things are not happening anymore. So not just the north and the eastern areas, the entire country, like I said, is on a standstill, waiting to see, these guys delivering. So and the government also, unfortunately, I don't think they're sensitive to these issues. So if the monies are not, if the capital expenditure allocations are not being properly utilized, there is not going to be any cash flow into the rural economies. There are contractors, there are laborers, there are hardwares, that depend on these contract work to come to that region so that they can sell their, services and products, so that there is money circulation, the cash, the rupee circulation happens. So I'm really concerned about how things are going.
Now, you said that the government is not sensitive enough to the realities of the people. Is it now we see this every time a government comes, a party comes to power, but in the past, of course, it was because they were flying around in huge convoys and they never actually got in touch, or the people could not approach them. It was very difficult to get to your MP or a minister. But with this government, you do see the MPs, behaving more like normal people. But do you feel that still they are losing touch with the aspirations of the people?
Niresh, let me ask you a question. You are in Colombo. You name 5 members of parliament from the NPP in Colombo. Okay, I don't want to, not that you wouldn't know, but what I'm saying, Niresh, is that under this government, right, people don't know who their MPs are.
So you mean the visibility is not
visibility, because I don't think they're empowered to do their tasks as members of parliament. I think there is a committee seated somewhere, could be the JVP Politburo, who then appoints another committee under the Politburo, who then appoint another committee. So it's a committee on top of a committee on top of a committee that decides, how this country is governed. You get a cabinet minister here. I don't want to put the cabinet ministers under unfair, scrutiny on camera, but some cabinet ministers, Nilesh, I'm even concerned as to know that if they even get to engage with the government staff under their ministries, if the instructions are being sent from the minister or not is a big question, a big question. So in this instance, Nilesh, now let me tell you something. You spoke about government MPs and ministers going in convoys and all that. We were opposed to that as well. We don't want to see public funds being wasted to that. But at the same time, the NPP government has created more space for corruption because the members of parliament of the NPP don't even get their salaries and the allowances, is what we are being told. So I brought this up in parliament, and the minister in charge of justice, Honorable Harshana Nanayakkara, told me that it's a new political culture that people like Shanakiyan Rasamanickam can't understand. Now I don't understand the political culture where members of parliament are paid from taxpayers' money, and then that money is paid to the party. Now, if you just take a rough estimate,
but that is a personal decision of those MPs. They have agreed to it.
Nilesh,
the money is not going from parliament
let me tell you,
to the party.
Let me tell you why I feel that it's unfair to the citizens is because the members of parliament, if they get, say, I think the salary is around 300,000, out of which 50,000 is the salary, the basic salary. Then there's a fuel allowance. Now, if the fuel allowance is taken by the party, right? So that fuel allowance is paid to the member of parliament to do exactly what you said, to go meet people, to go meet their constituents, right? That is unfair. Then they shouldn't take that money, because if they're not doing that task, if they're not taking the fuel allowance to go engage with their citizens of their district, then they shouldn't take that money. So they're taking, so in a way, this is a massive form of corruption. Not just that, local government members, I think there are about 3,900 local government members under the NPP. Each member gets 15,000 rupees. So you multiply that by 4,000, just say hypothetically 3,900 is into 4,000, not 3,900, let's say multiplied by 4,000. That's around 60 million rupees a month. So now in Batiklo, I won't mention the council because that poor lady will get in trouble. That poor lady came to me and said, look, something has happened, something has gone wrong with her house. And as the MP, even though she's not from our party, so I said, well, it's, X amount of money, why don't you? And he said, no, we don't even get a allowance that is paid for the local government members. So, Nilesh, corruption, if corruption is corruption, if NPP does it, it's corruption. If SLPP does it, it's corruption. If ITEC does it also, it's corruption. It can't be, you can't selectively be selective about corruption, on different ministers. Now, NPP ministers have been accused of corruption. I myself have raised it in parliament, but investigations have started against them. There's a very notable, where there's been one person who comes to a lot of talk shows, a female member of the NPP. Her father is accused of extortion. There's a B report on that. Why haven't they taken action on that? So what I'm saying is, Nilesh, people, again, from what I said in my first intervention, people are worried that, for the third time in a row at a presidential election, have they made a mistake? They don't want to yet accept. Now, even myself, I'm not at all trying to bring this government down. I'm not trying to destabilize this government. For Tamil people of this country to get a permanent solution, permanently lasting political solution, to get a new constitution, you need a government that has 2/3 majority. You need a government that has the public support. So we are trying to bring this government to, the right track. So they will actually, be able to actually do the right things that they promised the people that they would do.
Now, you mentioned the new constitution. Has there been any discussion with your party and other parties?
So, Nilesh, the president hasn't formally engaged with our party yet on the constitution. In fact, our party has written a letter with a formal request for a meeting to meet him to discuss about this particular matter. It's only been about 10 days since we wrote to him. We are still yet to get a response. I'm sure the president will respond to it. But other than that, we have raised this in parliament on many occasions, and we haven't gotten a response to it. So as far as I believe, I don't think, if they don't start the constitution making process, the constitution can final constitution can come in 3 years, 4 years, who knows. But if they don't even start it now, I don't see it ever happening. So abolishing executive presidency, all that I think will not happen.
But that's quite a step back from what was promised.
Well, there are so many steps back from what's promised. So what is this? I mean, they promised to hold the provincial council election within 1 year. Explicitly says on their election manifesto. That hasn't been done. They promised to give employment to 35,000 graduates within, they explicitly mentioned the time frame. Hasn't been done. So breaking promises or broken promises, I mean, I don't think the list is a never-ending list, Nilesh.
Right. So you mentioned provincial council elections. Is your party ready for it?
Oh, yes. We're definitely ready. And we will definitely ensure that we form the government in the north and the east.
Well, you yourself, I think, led the party in the Batticlo district, which was the only district which didn't vote for the NPP.
Well, not just the parliament election, the local government election following the parliament election, Niresh, the Ilangai Thamarasikachi Pakshi, the party, is a party that has the second largest number of local government councils where the administration is headed by our party. So NPP has the largest number of local councils that they control, and ITAC has the second largest number of councils that are controlled. Yeah.
Right. Then what about issues like
But with the provincial council, let me say one thing. We will definitely win and we will form the government. But will the government hold the elections? Will the government actually hold the elections is a big question. Big question.
But it has been promised.
Just like every other promise. Now the concern with provincial councils is, Niresh, that the president has said that the elections will be held and there will be a discussion as to which election system will be used. The proportional representation system or a new system where the delimitation has to be done. But JVP's general secretary has gone to Jaffna and said that the provincial council election will only happen once the delimitation process is complete. Now that is contradicting what the president has been saying. But Minister Vijitha Herath has gone to Geneva and has said that the elections will be held after the delimitation process is done. So now we don't know which one to believe. I am hoping that it is the president who is the head of the state and president is the head of the government. So I'm hoping that the elections will happen. If they want to do the delimitation process, then they have to first decide that the elections are going to happen in that new system.
Right.
So there is if they are still not sure if it's the new process or the old process, then why not decide first? But at Parliament, Vijitha Herath in Geneva said after delimitation, but in Parliament he said we will finish the delimitation and then decide if it's a new system or the old system. So it was very clear that the delimitation process was purely a ploy to waste time.
Now, what about the Prevention of Terrorism Act? Another big stumbling block which was promised. Of course, many ruling parties have promised to abolish it, but this one in particular. And then in August, it was actually said in Parliament that it would be abolished.
By September. They said before the presidential election, they said it will be fully abolished. After president became the head of state and after parliament election, they said they will repeal PT and replace. Then they said they will repeal by September. Now we are almost at the end of October. Mid-October is over. So that's another, add that to the list of broken promises. The Online Safety Act was another broken promise. So even accountability, Easter Sunday attacks. I mean, see again, Niresh, we can keep going on about what the government is not doing. right? But again, with the government, about what the government is doing, sorry, we can keep going on about the things that the government is not doing right, right? At the same time, we can say a few things that the government is doing things right, but will that really, keep the people happy on the long term for 5 years for the government to last its term? I don't know, because like I said, these arrests that are happening, they're very short term, because in a couple of years, if all these fellows get arrested and they're released on bail and the cases are pending, and if the money that they were accused of stealing is not brought back, and the economy doesn't boom with no foreign direct investments coming in, and even our tourists, I think the government boasts about the number of tourists who come to Sri Lanka, but we have to look at the quality of the tourists that are coming, how much money they're spending in the country, if they are actually a burden on the system. Some of these tourists who come barely spend in Sri Lanka at all. There are some of these restaurants and hotels that we speak to, where the locals spend more than the tourists. So the quality of the tourists, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at a discussion with President Wickremesinghe at the time when the country was facing the financial crisis, at the time the government of the day was begging with any sort of tourist to come. That is because Sri Lanka was an unsafe destination to travel, so any quality of tourist was okay. But now, since the country is on autopilot mode, no drastic changes have been made, we are still getting in those poor quality tourists who don't spend at all.
Now let's talk about tourism in the north and the east, especially the east, which of course with its amazing beaches and other attractions, I mean, it's been a known destination for many decades. Of course, during the war it was another issue, but what is the tourism situation in the east now? Trincomalee and Pasikuda, Patiklo and so on.
So Nilesh, Trincomalee unfortunately is facing a real problem with the number of tourists that are arriving, because some policy decision that may have been taken, I still haven't gotten to the bottom of it, has converted Trincomalee to a day trip. Previously, Nilesh, people would come and stay the night in Trincomalee.
Right.
Now it has come to a situation where people stay the night in Dambulla and then travel to Trinco for a day trip and then come back to Dambulla. So a lot of the hoteliers in Trinco are concerned about why this has happened. That is one thing. And even Batiklo generally, Nilesh, the number of tourists that we get is only to Pasikuda, and that is also a limited number. And the other tourists that we get is to Arugambe, that is seasonal. And this year, I think Arugambe also is overpopulated with tourists from a certain nationality. There are a lot of conflicts that are brewing in that area, where tourists from this particular country, Israel, who come there and they trying to take over the businesses of the locals, overstaying their visas, getting into brawls. Again, what I mentioned, the quality of tourists have severely reduced. But compared to the southern province and the western province and the central province, the connectivity to the north and east is extremely poor. So why would a tourist who comes to Sri Lanka wants to see beaches? The beaches in Batiklo are beautiful. The beaches in the east are pristine, untouched, beautiful beaches. But sometimes some of the tourists don't want to spend an extra couple of days in travel to get to the north and east just to enjoy these beaches. That they might as well go to the beaches in the western coast. So that's why I said, to really develop the north and the east, you really need to improve the connectivity to the north and the east.
Now, with regard to connectivity, the Central Expressway, which had been abandoned, the Kadawatha to Meerigama stretch, I think the construction has been restarted. Of course, that's going to take a couple of years. But do you feel that would be a game changer towards transportation, not just to the north central part of the country, but beyond?
I think, Nilesh, the Central Expressway's completion would definitely benefit a large number of citizens. I'm not going to dispute that. Even I travel from Mirigama to Kurunegala and then get on to Dambulla on my way to Batiklo. So definitely it will improve, reduce travel time to those who are traveling to Dambulla or even to Kandy or even further from there. So that's good. But again, in that we are being told that a loan of 500 million USD has been taken, and earlier the interest rate was fixed at 2.5%, but now there has been a change. I think Dr. Harsha De Silva also had mentioned that that now it's from a fixed interest to it has moved to a variable interest, where the higher rate is capped at 3.5%. So 1% difference in $500 million over X amount of years is a big concern. So it is the same government that accused Rajapakshas of building highways to steal. So the same accusations can be said about them now, unless they actually clarify these things. But again, we welcome the fact that the highways are being restarted, because we're not opposed to highways. It was the NPP that was opposed to highways. I remember watching a speech where I think it was the president himself who said the dogs are also upset in the southern province that they can't cross from one side to the other side, and that the dogs have also been separated from their friends. So we are not in that mindset to say highways are useless, but building highways to every part of the country immediately is impossible. So whilst the central part of the country is getting highways, let the northern part get the airport, let the eastern part get a port. The southern part already has an airport and a port, right? So the distribution of resources, the distribution of potential, where there is already potential, the distribution of resources to utilize that potential must be fair.
Now, we're almost out of time, but my final question is, the budget is coming up, and what would you advise the government to prioritize in the budget?
Well, Niresh, very clearly to look after the vulnerable communities. The poor have gotten even poorer in the last year. This government has done nothing to uplift their standard of living. The cost of living is still high.
So poverty alleviation.
Poverty, get people out of the poverty, because if you look at the poverty estimates, 24% of the country live under the poverty line, right? So 24% of our population is living in poverty. So this is the lowest since 2019, I think. So we need to do something about them. And again, even the middle class and the working class, the tax burden is on them is immense, right? And we do understand that taxes are important, but there are other ways that the government can increase their revenue without taxing some of the citizens. So this government, before they came into power, they were talking about reducing taxes. Now they have put taxes on all industries. They gave promise on reducing taxes, that the VAT would be removed from medicine and education, books and all that, but that hasn't happened. So see, the budget really needs to focus on the vulnerable communities and also the middle income earning families. So it may already be too late, because we are in the third week of October. The budgets to be presented on the first week of November. So already all that may have been done, but it's unfortunate that there have been no consultations with the public or civil society or opposition members about what the budget should have.
Right, and I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to Shanakiyan Rasamanickam, Member of Parliament for the Batiklo district. Thank you very much for being with me this evening. Always refreshing to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.